Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the lecture of Operation Research. In today's lecture, we are going to start a new unit, unit number 3, called as Quadratic Programming Problem. That of in the last lecture, we have covered a method called as branch and bound method, which is used for solving an integer programming problem. As we have seen an algorithm and example as well, this method totally works like a rule of divide and rule, right? No, it works like a concept of divide and rule. And as this method is very lengthy method, actually to solve one problem of integer programming problem by branch and bound, at least 4 to 5 times you have to solve a simplex method, and accordingly you have to find out the solutions. Therefore, for our syllabus, we have only algorithm of this branch and bound method. No examples are included. Okay. Now, in today's lecture, we will go for the third unit of our syllabus. As we are going to start the third unit, 50% of the syllabus we have finished. First chapter is on linear programming problem. Second chapter is on duality and integer programming problem. Now, this third one deals with quadratic programming problem. Now, as the name suggests of every programming problem, in the first one, as the name is linear programming problem, what we have seen in linear programming problem, why we are calling it as linear programming problem? Here, the objective function nature is linear. Correct, na? Nature of objective function is linear. What about constraints? Yes. What is the nature of constraints? Constraints are also in the linear form. Okay. And the values of the variable are accepted with non-zero values. Any value with non-zero, or one can say it is a feasible value. Right. Now the second we have seen is an integer programming problem. Now in which what is the nature of our objective function? Objective function linear, constraints also linear. Only the change we have made is here the values of xj are accepted to be integer ones. Therefore, this integer programming problem was a special case of linear programming problem. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to start a third type of programming problem called as quadratic programming problem. In short, we are going to write as QPP, quadratic programming problem. Okay. Now, here, if I compare this quadratic programming problem with linear programming problem, one can replace the linear words with the quadratic word, right? Therefore, objective function is quadratic, constraints are also quadratic. But this is not the case in quadratic programming problem. In quadratic programming problem, we were considering only the objective function is in the quadratic form. Objective function is in the quadratic form, and constraints are as usual linear constraints. Constraints are in the linear forms itself. Okay. Now one may ask a question whether this kind of programming problem is going to exist. That is, both are quadratic. Objective function is quadratic and constraints also quadratic. No doubt such a kind of problems are going to exist, and those are called a non-linear programming problem. The case comes under a broad case of non-linear programming problem. Non-linear programming problem. Okay. Now here, as the name suggests, non-linear programming problem, it was considering, or it was going to have the more generalized case, objective function non-linear and constraints also non-linear. Right. But this is not for our syllabus. For our syllabus, we have only quadratic programming problem. That is, nature of programming problem is of the type objective function is quadratic in nature, that of constraints are linear in nature. Okay, this is what a rough idea is. Now, before going to understand what is the general form of quadratic programming problem, we will try to understand what is the quadratic form. Once we understand the quadratic form, it will help us to understand the quadratic programming problem, or rather the general and matrix form of quadratic programming problem. Therefore, let me start with the concept of quadratic form. We know what is a quadratic function. Yes. What do we mean by quadratic form? Quadratic function, quadratic equation. Yes. What is the quadratic equation? Equation with?
Degree of 2.
Yes, equation with degree 2. But whenever we are saying it is of degree 2, whether it means that it will not have it will not have the terms of degree 1?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, it has both, right? That is, it has both linear form, linear terms and terms with degree 2 as well. Okay, let us try to understand what quadratic form is different. We know the quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is an equation involving linear and terms of degree 2 as well. Now we will try to understand quadratic form with the help of matrices, and let us start with understanding this from two-dimension case. From two-dimension case. Now what we have to do in two-dimension, we will start with the matrix of variable. Let say capital X, which we were writing, and let be of two variables only, x1 and x2. As we are considering a two-dimensional case, let me consider the matrix. No doubt X is a matrix of variables and is a column matrix. Okay, here I'll write B of column vector in two-dimension space. Okay, and capital A is equal to, now we are going to consider 2 by 2 matrix. What is the positions we were writing in 2 by 2 matrix? Wait a moment, there is some problem with the pentagon. Yeah, A11, A12, A21, A226. Then, then a function of two variables, then a function of two variables f of x1, x2, or we were going to write it as q of x. This capital Q stands for no doubt a quadratic form. E is called quadratic function or quadratic form is called a quadratic form E. What if Q of x we have written as x transpose A x. X transpose A x. Okay, let us check what is x. X is a column vector. Let me write it on the next page. X is a column vector with the two variables set x1, x2, right? And what about A we have discussed? It's a 2 by 2 matrix. A11, A12, A21 and A22, correct? Then here we have taken a transpose. If I take a transpose of a column vector, then it becomes a row vector. Correct, no? Now check. Check the order of the matrices, and we will first check whether the multiplication is possible or not. If I take the first matrix X transpose, what is the order? Is it 1 by 2? 1 row, 2 columns. Middle matrix is of order 2 by 2, and the third matrix X is of order 2 rows, 1 column. That what is the resultant of this? The resultant of first two matrices is 1 cross 2 multiplied by 2 cross 1. Therefore, finally the resultant is 1 cross 1. That is a scalar term, one can say. Right now, therefore the multiplication is possible. Therefore, this structure x transpose ax was just taken in order to have the multiplication to be possible, or in order to make it possible. Right now, let us do a multiplication. If I do a multiplication, what will be the multiplication of first two matrices? What is the order? 1 by 2, no? 1 row, 2 columns. Correct, no? Can anyone tell me the first element? Anyone from students?
A11 x1 plus multiplication सांगायचं ना मग.
Yes.
A11 x1 plus A21 x2.
A21, x2. What is the order we were discussing? 1 cross 2, na? 1 row, 2 column. Therefore, this was the entry in first row, first column. What is the entry in first row, second column?
A21 x1 plus A22 x2.
2, 1. 1, 2.
1, 2. A1.
First row, first column we have multiplied.
A1.
Now this row into this column, na? A12 I think. A12 x1 plus A22
X2. X2.
x2 and is multiplied by the matrix x1 x2, correct na? Now this is again 1 cross 2, 2 cross 1, we have only a scalar term with us or a matrix of order 1 by 1. What is the resultant? A11, this we have to multiply, na? This row and this column, right? First we'll multiply by x1 to this part first part. But is it A11 x1 square, A21 x2 x1 added with A12. Now this term we will multiply by x2. A12 x1 x2 added with A22 x2 square. Therefore, what is the quadratic form we are obtaining? As it is the matrix of order 1 by 1 means it's a scalar term. I can write it as A11 x1 square, A21 x2 x1, or we can take this common also. Let me write it first. Okay, taking the coefficients of x1 x2 common, v1 can write it as A11 x1 square plus what is the coefficient of x2? A21 plus A12 multiplied by x1 x2 plus A22 x2 square. Then whatever this q of x we have taken in the form of x transpose x is going to generate a quadratic form. Is that clear to everyone? Let me just shift it to 3 dimensions now. The same we have to continue in 3 dimensions. Now what in 2 dimensions? Let me start with x to be a matrix of 3 variables, say x1, x2 and x3. And what will be the A matrix? A matrix is a matrix of order 3 by 3 now. A11, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2 and 2, 3. P1, P2 and P3. Good. Now let us take a quadratic form again. But the quadratic form is Q of x is x transpose Ax. What will be x transpose? It's a row vector containing 3 variables x1, x2 and x3. And what for A? A is the matrix Aij. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2 and 3, 3 into a matrix X, and it's a column vector of order of having the variables 3 variables x1, x2 and x3, right? Let us check their orders now again. What the order says now? X transpose is of order 1 by 3, A is of order 3 by 3 and X is of order 3 by 1. Therefore, if we do a multiplication of first two matrices, this gives me a resultant of 1 by 3. And 1 by 3 into 3 by 1, if we take a multiplication, it gives you a matrix of order 1 by 1, that is a scalar. Now I just leave this for you as a homework and I will write what is the directly we are getting as a form. And the form we were getting is A11 x1 square, A22 x2 square, A33 x3 square plus A12 plus A21 x1 x2, A13 plus A31 x1 x3. Which combination remains? 2, 3, na? A23 plus A32 x2 x3. Therefore, if we look at this again, every term involved in this is of degree 2. Therefore, this is also a quadratic form. Therefore, we will write the definition of a quadratic form in general for an n-tuple vector. Therefore, let me write the definition. The definition says that let capital X is a vector of n-tuple n variables, say n-tuple vector x1, x2 to xn, and n cross n matrix A equal to Aij. Then the function of n variables, denoted by, we are going to denote this as f of x1, x2 to xn, or we are going to write as q of x is called a quadratic form in n space P. What if capital Q of x is equal to x transpose q x, and let me write it in terms of a summation. This is a double summation. I equals to 1 to n, j equals to 1 to n, aij, xi, xj. Correct now? Here also, if I want to write it in terms of a double summation, how can I write it? Or into variables, into space? This is double sum aij, xi, xj, I running from 1 to 2, j running from 1 to 2. Correct now? If you want to check whether it is giving or not, first you run up the summation over j and then run up a summation over I, you will get your answer. No doubt. Okay. Therefore, this is a quadratic form in an n-dimension space. This is called as a quadratic form in the n-dimension spaces. Now, if a matrix A is given, then one can easily find out the quadratic form. But if I want to go in the reverse manner, that is, if a quadratic form is given and if it is asked to identify the matrix A, then what one has to do? What's the possibility to with us? Say, let me take an example. Okay, suppose a matrix quadratic form is given as x1 square plus 3x1 x2 plus 2x2 square, say. Okay, then if I compare this with the standard quadratic form in two-dimensional spaces, this is a11 x1 square, a12 plus a21 x1 x2 plus a22 x2 square. Can we construct a matrix A with the help of this quadratic form? Yes? Can we go reverse? If matrix is given to us, one can easily find out the quadratic form. No doubt, I'll take that example also. But the question is, if the quadratic form is given, is it possible to write a matrix? If I compare both the forms, let us compare the coefficients of x1 square. If I compare the coefficient of x1 square, it gives us a11 is equals to 1. Let me compare the coefficients of x2 square. It gives you a22 is equals to 2. But what about the coefficients a12 and a21? Combinedly, a12 plus a21 is equal to 3. Right? And we don't have any other options to find out the separate values of a12 and a21. For that purpose, we are giving equal weightage to both the variables, and that's why we were going to take a12 is equals to a21 is equals to 3 by 2. So what kind of matrix it will be now? Yes, students. I hope I am clearly audible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
What is a11 we have found? It's 1. A22 we have found is 2. But as we don't have the separate values, we have just given the equal weightage. Therefore, a12 and a21 we will write 3 and 1. Therefore, if I just look, this gives me a symmetric matrix. Therefore, in the definition itself, it was written without loss of generality, consider the matrix A to be a symmetric matrix. Consider the matrix A to be a symmetric matrix. And if it is not given to be symmetric, one can construct it to be symmetric. How can one construct to be symmetric? Okay. But what we are going to write it here without loss of generality. Without loss of generality, the matrix A can always be assumed as symmetric. Understood the reason now why it is symmetric?
Yes, ma'am.
Because the coefficient of x1, x2 must be equal to the coefficient of x2, x1. This is what the idea behind considering this A to be a symmetric matrix. What is symmetric matrix? Definition: A is equal to A transpose. Correct, na? Now, in case if it is not given to be symmetric, in case if A is not symmetric, in case A is not symmetric, then we can construct it as a symmetric. How can we construct? We can always construct a symmetric matrix, say B, matrix B, by using or by what the formula we were going to use? B we were going to write as half A plus A transpose. Whatever A is given to be non-symmetric, we will add up with its transpose and we will take half. With this, what will happen? We were going to use this criteria, A12 plus A21 divided by half, so that we will get the equal weightage to all the non-diagonal entries and the matrix A will be constructed to be a symmetric matrix. Therefore, in the examples, it was asked to find out the quadratic form. Okay, find the quadratic form. I think one can construct it very easily. I'll just take one example. Find the quadratic form for A. What is A given? Let me write 1027. How can we construct the quadratic form for this? You can take actually by multiplying x transpose AX, or you can just compare the values with the standard one. Here I am getting A11 is 1, A22 is 7, correct now? A12 is 0, A21 is 2. What's the quadratic form? Formula tells us this is A11 x1 square plus A12 plus A21 x1 x2 added with A22 x2 square. Okay, now we have all the values with us. If the quadratic form regarding this will be x1 square. 1 2 plus 2 1 is 2. If this is 2x1 x2 plus 7x2 square. Okay, is the point clear? Constructing the quadratic form. Okay, now what we will do? We will construct the quadratic form by a symmetric matrix B, which is constructed with this matrix A. Okay, now construct our symmetric matrix. Construct the symmetric matrix B. Construct the symmetric matrix B by using what property we have written? B is equals to half A plus A transpose, right? Now let me construct B first. This is half. Okay. What is A given to us? 1027. 7. What is A transpose? Yes, 1, 2, 0.
1207.
Yes, correct. Let us do the addition. This is 2, this is 14, here it is 2, here it is 2. Correct now? And let us divide by 2 to every term. What we are going to get it? 1, 1, 1 and 7. This is a matrix B now. Again, let us construct a quadratic form with this so that we will check why we were considering this to be a symmetric matrix with the formula half A plus A transpose. Okay. Therefore, if I compare the values again, this gives me A11 is 1, A12 is 1, A21 is 1, A22 is 7. Right? Therefore, what is the quadratic form? Quadratic form is a11 x1 square added with a12 plus a21 x1 x2 plus a22 x2 square. Now here we have a12 a21 both are 1. Therefore the addition gives us 2. Therefore this quadratic form is x1 square plus 2 x1 x2 plus 7 x2 square. Therefore if you just observe the quadratic form we have calculated by A and the quadratic form calculated by converting it to a symmetric matrix. Both are same, right? Both are same. Both quadratic forms are same. Therefore, we were considering without loss of generality that the matrix is a symmetric. Actually, whatever the coefficients of x1, x2 we have, this is addition of the two terms a12 and a21. Therefore, if I give the equal weightage to of an addition to both the variables, it will not change our addition. Correct? Actually, here a12 is 0, a21 is 2, but the addition of both of them is 2, and we where that addition we have divided into two equal parts, 1 and 1, as a12 and a21. Right? Still, we will get the same value. Now we will go for the next point of quadratic form, properties of the quadratic form. Any difficulty in the definition of quadratic form?
No, ma'am.
Let us go to next point then, properties of the quadratic form. Under this heading of properties of quadratic form, we were going to understand the characteristic of quadratic forms as positive definite, semi-definite, negative definite, etc. Right? Therefore, there are in all 5 properties: positive definite, semi-definite, negative semi-definite, and indefinite. Let us try to understand the first one. The first property is positive definite. Definite or definite, I can call anything. Positive, definite. Our definition says that this quadratic form for q of x, whatever we are going to obtain, must be positive, that is greater than 0 for all the non-zero values of x. What I am going to, let me repeat. The quadratic form is positive for all non-zero values of x. For x equals to 0, we were not going to consider. Only for x non-zero values, the quadratic form q of x must be positive. Then the quadratic form itself is called as positive definite. Let me write a definition. A quadratic form qx is positive, definite or definite. You can only q of x is positive. Positive means what? Greater than 0 for all x not equals to 0. Okay, let us check one example here. Let us take q of x to be in 2 dimension. We will check, no doubt, because it is easy for us to do the calculations. What is x1, x2? What is the quadratic form? Matrix A I have taken to be 2, 0, 0, 4, 6. Yes. What is the quadratic form for this? a1 to a21 both are 0, therefore may I write this is 2x1 square plus 4x2 square. Correct, no? Now whatever is x1 and x2, what is the nature of q of x? Whatever x1, x2, positive, negative, not 0, okay, x not equal to 0. What is x here actually? Oh, let me write this x as a capital X. Now what is capital X here? Variable x1, x2 not equal to 0. Means both of them cannot be 0 simultaneously. Okay. What is the nature of q of x for any values of x1, x2?
Positive.
Positive, because we have square
Yes.
with us, na? Right? Therefore, may I write this implies q of x is greater than 0 for any x not equal to 0. Correct, no? Therefore, may I write this q of x is positive definite. What do you think about positive semi-definite then? Next property it is. This may accept 0 values as well. Correct, no? Property number 2, positive semi-definite. Okay, positive semi-definite. Now the definition says that this is positive semi-definite if and only if q of x is non-negative. See, I had changed the words from positive to non-negative for all x. Okay, and there exists at least one non-zero x for which x is for which quadratic form is equal to 0. Let me write it. Quadratic form is positive semi-definite. If and only q of x is non-negative. Instead of positive, we have changed the words to non-negative, that is accepting 0. Let me write greater equal by 0 for all x. For all x, and there exists one non-zero x. There exists x not equals to 0 for which q of x is equal to 0. That is for a one non-zero value, we are going to get it q of x is equal to 0. If we get this q of x is 0 for 0 value, then it is not acceptable. Right now, because in this example also, if I take x equal to 0, what is my q of x? It's going to be 0, na? But we were going to discuss the nature only for x not equal to 0, right? Therefore, here there must exist one non-zero x for which q of x is 0, capital X. So vector. Okay, let me give one example again. Q of x is x1, x2, matrix A is 8 minus 4 minus 4, 2. What is the quadratic form in this case? A11, that is 8x1 square, right? Addition of these two, minus 4, it's minus 8, x1, x2, plus A22 is 2, therefore this is 2x2 square. Let me try to make it simple. Taking 2 common. If I take 2 common, what will happen? 4x1 square minus 4x1 x2 plus x2 square. If you look very carefully, this bracket is a perfect square of 2x1 minus x2. Correct? This bracket is a perfect square of 2x1 minus x2. Now what about its values? As this is involve a square, what is the value of this q of x? For all x, for any x, including 0 as well. Non-negative, can I say non-negative? Okay. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And tell me one non-zero x for which q of x is 0. Yes. What is a non-zero x? When this q of x is going to become 0? 2x1 equal to x2, na? It is
2x1 equal
going to
to
become 0. Q of x is 0 for 2x1 is equal to x2. Therefore, if you select any value of x1, suppose x1 I will select 1. What should be my value of x2?
2.
Therefore, which vector it is? 1, 2, na? For 1, 2 vector, what is the value of your q of x? Check.
0.
0. Therefore, for this non-zero vector x, this is non-zero, correct, na? For this 1, 2 vector which is non-zero, we are getting the value of q of x is 0. And for all the rest, it is non-negative, correct? Therefore, this is positive semi-definite. Therefore, shall I write it here? Q of x is q of x is greater or equal by 0 for all x, and q of x is equal to 0 for x satisfying. How many such capital X exist then? How many such capital X exist for which q of x is equal to 0? Infinite, no?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
those vectors which satisfies 2x1 equal to x2, that is whose the second coordinate is double that of first, are going to satisfy or are going to give us q of x is equal to 0. Okay? Therefore, this implies q of x is semi-definite. Let us turn to the third one, negative definite. Can anyone tell me now? Negative definite?
Less than 0.
Yes, it is less than 0. Or one can say minus q of x is positive definite. Correct, na?
Yes, ma'am.
A quadratic form q of x is negative definite if minus q of x is positive definite. Because in positive definite we were saying q of x is greater than 0 for all non-zero x. Therefore, if I take a negative sign, that positive becomes negative. Okay? Or one can write, or instead of or, what I will write? Other words. In other words, q of x is negative definite if q of x is less than 0 for all x not equal to 0. One example again for this also. Minus 2, 1, 1, minus 3. What is the quadratic form? Minus 2 x1 square, addition of a1 to and a21, that is 1 plus 1, 2 x1 x2 minus 3 x2 square. Right? Let me take a negative sign common. This is 2x1 square minus 2x1 x2 plus 3x2 square. Now tell me the value for x not equal to 0. Whatever is this value positive, we were going to get it with a negative sign, no? What is this middle term, bracketed term, for x not equal to 0? May I say it is positive definite, bracketed term. With a negative sign, it becomes negative. Therefore, one can say q of x is negative definite. If I put for x1, x2 equal to 1, 1, it is 2 minus 2 plus 3, positive. For any check, you must get this to be a positive number. Next is negative semi-definite. Fourth it is. What negative semi-definite is? If minus qx is positive semi-definite. Then only minus q of x is negative semi-definite. But minus q of x is positive semi-definite. Positive semi-definite. The last one is indefinite. Indefinite means we cannot predict its value. A quadratic form q of x is indefinite if q of x is positive, q of x is positive for some x and negative for some x. That is, we cannot decide. Some others. Let us take an example. One minus 1, 1 minus 2. What is q of x in this case? A1, 1 is 1, that is x1 square. Middle two terms 1 and plus minus 1, 0. And we remains with x1 minus 2, x2 square. Okay. Now just check me what will be the value of this q of x. This will be positive. Q of x is positive for x1 square greater than 2x2 square. Right? And what for less? Negative. If x1 square is less than 2x2 square. Okay. Or let me check the value for any x1 0. For x equal to x1 0. If I put x equal to x1 0 means the second coordinate 0. Therefore we remains with q of x to be x1 square only. Right now? Q of x is x1 square. And we know x1 square is positive for any non-zero x, right? and if I later take x to be 0x2, what is the value then? Q of x will become minus 2x2 square. Whatever is your x2 square is positive, along with the negative symbol, this gives me less than 0. That is for some values of x, the vectors for which it gives me positive value, and for some other it gives us negative value. That is, we cannot justify, we cannot judge the value of the quadratic form, positive or negative. In that case, we are going to call it as negative definition. Now let me switch to the definition of quadratic programming problem. Let us come to the definition. Now, as I discussed, as I told you already, in quadratic programming problem, we have objective function quadratic, which are subject to linear equation. So let me write a definition. Let X transpose and C matrix C belongs to Rn, Q be symmetric matrix, symmetric n cross n real matrix, then the problem of maximizing f of x equal to, what it is equal to, cx plus half x transpose qx, subject to the constraints ax is less than or equals to b, x is greater than or equals to 0, where B transpose belongs to Rm and capital A is m cross n real matrix. M cross n real matrix is called general quadratic programming problem. Is called general quadratic programming problem. Okay. Now, if you just look at the objective function, no doubt x and c are having the n-tuple vectors. X is a column vector and all, everything we know. Now, look at this objective function f of x. This is of the type c of x. What cx is going to give us? Cx are going to give us the linear terms, right? And what this x transpose qx is going to give us? This is going to give us the quadratic term. Now, one may have a question about this half. Okay, I will explain you why this half was taken. This is just an adjustment made in order, after using this Lagrange's multiplier method, this half is just a adjustment. I will tell you this at the time of Kundakar conditions. Okay, so this objective function consists of some linear terms added with the quadratic terms subject to the linear constant. Therefore, here I can write linear constraints. Okay. Therefore, if we look at this quadratic programming problem, this is quadratic objective function. Quadratic objective function subject to linear constraint. There is no change in the constraint. Is of the same type. X is less than or equals to b, where the values of the variables x are non-negative. This is my objective function. Now we are going to understand some methods how to solve this quadratic programming problem. Actually, there are two methods are in our syllabus: Wolf method and Bilf method. In order to understand both the methods, first we have to understand the Lagrangian method of multipliers used for solving non-linear programming problem. Though the problem of concept of non-linear programming problem is not for our syllabus, but we have to use the Lagrange's method in order to solve our quadratic programming problem. Therefore, we have to deal with the Lagrangian method first, and then we have to derive the conditions in order to derive the method Wolf and Beale's method, right? Therefore, in the next lecture, first we'll try to understand what is the Lagrangian method or Lagrange's multiplier method, and then what are the conditions called as Kuhn-Tucker condition. If you have any doubt in today's lecture, you can ask me. Thank you for being with me for today's lecture. If you have any difficulties, you can ask me. Yes, students, any difficulty for quadratic programming? If not, let me stop for today. Thank you for being with me.